A cruise ship is catching a lot of attention and eyeballs at the moment, and unfortunately, it's not for a great reason, as it has been crowned the world's dirtiest cruise ship. And what's surprising about all this is that this is not some old, janky rust bucket that's a cruise or two away from being tossed into the cruise ship scrapyard. This ship is set to be a 5-star luxury expedition cruise on a ship that really isn't that old, and it cost a pretty penny to sail on. Now, before we get into the honestly disturbing and disgusting details and giblets of this conundrum, just to give all of you a little context, there is a little organization based in the United States known as the CDC, or Centers for Disease Control. They were pretty popular a couple years ago during some not so great times. However, whether it was before the COVID pandemic, during, or even after, they've always been pretty strict when it comes to the cruise ship industry. I know because I used to work on cruise ships and we had to deal with them a lot. But there is something that happens twice a year, a evaluation or an inspection, if you will, where 100 random cruise ships are evaluated and inspected by the CDC, and they do have to pass with a score of 86 and above in order to, well, of course, make the CDC happy and show that they are a clean cruise ship that is operating efficiently and making sure their guests are healthy and well taken care of. Now, when it came to this evaluation, there are 100 cruise ships that were tested. There are 20 that passed with flying colors. The cruise ship I used to work on, the Norwegian Escape, is one of those cruise ships, I'm happy to say. However, there are 3 cruise ships specifically that got a failing grade, one of which is the one we're going to talk about in this video. Just to give you a little perspective, if you've gone to, let's say, grade school in the United States, you cannot be a C student. You cannot be average. You can't be a C+ student or potentially even a low B student. You have to have a solid B, like I said, with a percentage of 86 or above up to 100%. If you happen to get a failing grade, well, that specific cruise ship is potentially subject by the CDC to be suspended, inoperable, shut down until changes are made. Now, looking at the 3 ships that unfortunately did get a failing grade, starting off with the Safari Endeavor by Uncruise Adventures, 79%. The Bahama Mama got a 69%, which honestly is a little fitting because a Bahama Mama on a cruise can definitely make you get those kind of numbers, if you know what I mean, for all the adults out there. And finally, with a failing score of just 62%, we have the Hanseatic Inspiration by Hapag-Lloyd Cruises. Now, if you've never heard of Hapag-Lloyd Cruises, it is a joint venture, an American and German cruise line owned by both Royal Caribbean Cruises and TUI Cruises that is based over in Germany. The Hanseatic Inspiration is a relatively small ship because it is an expedition cruise ship. Initially launched just in 2019, holds 230 passengers at full capacity unless it's sailing to Antarctica. At that point, it'll only hold 200 passengers, 175 crew, 3 restaurants on board, and 7 decks. Before we go over why this ship specifically failed this inspection, it is important to note that if you want to sail on this cruise ship, it's going to almost quite literally cost you an arm and a leg, because a sailing will set you back anywhere between $15,000 up to $30,000 per cruise, and that's before you include anything like a suite upgrade or any additional amenities that you might want. Now, according to the CDC official report, they listed several alarming violations on board not only the Hanseatic Inspiration, but the other 2 ships that failed the evaluations, but things that include but are not limited to grime-covered beer taps, insects both dead and alive being found in kitchens and pool bars, a decaying bird covered in maggots, overflowing trash in washrooms, and finally food items not being stored at adequately low temperatures. Now, after going over all of that, there are a couple things that need to be mentioned. First of all, I do need to state the obvious and say that cruise ships in general on a global scale are without a doubt some of the cleanest places that you will ever go, especially when you are on vacation. However, when it comes to these CDC inspections, naturally people are going to take the results of the evaluations and inspections with a grain of salt, which is understandable. It depends on your personal preference and what you are willing to tolerate on your specific cruise. Tolerate, I sound like a baby. Tolerate on your specific cruise. Nevertheless, you do have to understand that when it comes to these inspections, like I said, that do happen twice per year, you are, at least I want to say the cruise lines, are usually given warnings and notices early in advance to know that the CDC or the inspectors are coming on board. So if these cruise ships specifically that ended up failing these evaluations were caught with all of these violations, and well, I'm not saying they deserved it. However, it is something that is naturally going to make people question whether these ships are completely sanitary or not. And I'm talking about the ones that fail, not the ones that pass, especially the ones that got a 100% passing grade. When it comes to the Hanseatic Inspiration cruise ship, the name of which I've probably said 3 different ways throughout this video, personally for me, if I'm going to pay anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000 for a single cruise, I better be able to walk on board. Matter of fact, I better be carried on board, able to whip out my white glove and wipe it on any surface without seeing a single speckle of dust of any kind. When it comes to the bird and maggots, I don't know if it was this specific ship. However, it was on one of these failing grade cruise ships. I guess to a degree, I can understand a dead bird possibly being there, but the fact that there's maggots means that it was probably there for a good while. But do keep in mind, like I said, with the CDC, they are very strict. If there's so much of a crumbled piece of paper in the hallway on board a cruise ship, they are docked a few points. Just be mindful of that. But that is what I have for this video. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.